Sydney's #1 podcast, West Underground.
You've just made my dreams come true there. I never made it as a
I'm starting to
footballer.
worry about you now.
I never made it as a footballer, George. But at least I've got that. At least I've got that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to West Underground. Today we are joined, and I'll be honest, this is a big get for me, this. And I'm still pinching myself, and I know a lot of my family members are feeling the same right now. We're joined. Oh, see, I'm tripping up on myself. I don't know what I'm doing. We're joined by George Sephton, the legendary Liverpool Football Club announcer. And George, very, very nice to speak to you, mate.
My pleasure. I've been called legendary twice this weekend. Basically that just means I'm old. I've discovered.
I feel like it's a polite way of saying it, though, isn't it? You know, I feel.
Yes, yeah. I'm not going to object. I can live with legendary.
I think when I get older, people will still be calling me, you know, something else. It'll never be legendary.
Yeah.
At least you've earned that. And we've also got Hamish here, my co-host, who's
hello.
Probably a little bit confused as the two Scouse accents going on right now.
I'm doing my best at the moment.
So, George, how are you? How do you feel after the game last night? It was last night. Last night for us.
My blood pressure must have been right up through the roof. I mean, I suffer during Liverpool games now. When we were 1-0 down very early on, I would have happily settled for 2-2. But then as the game goes on, you know, then we had Sterling thinking he'd scored and he hadn't. And of course, my opposite number at City announces the goal, which you shouldn't do nowadays.
Oh, okay.
I know I get shouted at, and I've had a few run-ins with VAR this year. I can't remember which game it was, but I know Sadio Mane scored at the far end, and the VAR took forever to work out what was going on. And I had a little voice in my ear, "Aren't you going to announce the goal?" And I said, "No, we have direct contact with VAR, and as soon as you hear the magic words, check over, then you announce the goal. You don't just go charging in." But when that happened, I must admit I was down in the mouth for a couple of minutes. Then it was cancelled off, and so it went on. But oh dear,
I know what you mean about the blood pressure thing, George. Like so this is, you know, I'm 26, right? So this is the most successful period I've ever seen, right? And I think back to like when I really started to go on my own, and it would be, you know, Trabzonspor in the Europa League on like a Thursday. And I think you'd only have like goal for Liverpool, number 14, Jovanovic. That was like all.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Because we were very good there, and I think now, and as good as it is to be so successful, it's stressful as anything, especially with the time difference. Like watching it over, so that was on at 1:30 in the morning. To try and watch a game at that time without a few brandies in you is a tough affair.
It's tough just watching it live, you know, that crowd. Oh, it's every game. I turn up to Anfield, and the atmosphere builds very, very slowly nowadays. And then at the end of the game, you suddenly realise you're exhausted, and you just crawl back to the car and just let me out of here. I spent the last couple of years, especially because obviously we had lockdown and playing behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And that was really spooky. Obviously, there was very few of us actually inside the ground. What the club did, they decided that we were just going to carry on with the usual routine, even though there was nobody in the place, just to make the players feel more relaxed about it.
So would you still do Operation Anfield?
I don't do that. It's somebody from the police who does that.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry.
I don't think we had one during behind closed doors. It was more or less pointless.
There was always a worry when the Operation Anfield gets announced, and you go, "Oh yeah, we're safe. It's all right."
Yeah. Well, again, harking back to the Grand National, that we have. If you listen for the magic word exercise, when they say Operation Anfield exercise, you know they're just practicing. When they say, come the day when they say Operation Anfield, you get out, you're in trouble.
Yeah, get out of it.
There's a bomb in the place or something. And I was at the Grand National with my daughter quite a few years ago, and we was by the parade ring watching the horses trotting around, and I suddenly heard the PA come on, and it said Operation Aintree. And I thought, I was waiting for the magic word, and it wasn't. I said to my daughter, out. She said, what are you talking? I said, get out now. Because I knew what was happening. Of course, we were the first to the front of the queue of people trying to get out. So it did me a lot of good that day.
You jumping on the back of Red Rum just to get out of there?
No, I think that was after Red Rum's time. But it's one of the things that the stupid little things that comes along with the job. But as I say, behind closed doors was freaky. And at the end of the season, I was so glad to get out of Anfield and get back to the normal, because
it's a very cold place, isn't it? I did the air conditioning in Anfield, so shout out to those boys who are listening to this right now. I'm sorry if it's too cold or too hot in Anfield. I apologize. But yeah, I remember we used to go and we'd be in there and it'd be empty, and it's just it's a bit of an eerie place when it's empty. Anfield.
Eerie is the best word. Yeah, I know. People said to me the next season, aren't you glad to be back at Anfield? I said, well, I haven't been away. In fact, I've been at Anfield more during lockdown than normal, because we had to have all these rehearsals and technical rehearsals and practices to make sure everybody knew what they were doing, where they're going to go and stand, how to get in, get out, who was allowed to go where. And then we had practice matches. First of all, they had an open training session. Then we had friendlies against Blackpool, Blackburn, first team versus the under-23s, that sort of thing. And when the matches came back on the TV, it looked good on the television. You could see all the banners in the stands, and some grounds out they had cardboard cutout people
of the people in the crowds. Yeah,
and then there was sound. Crowd noises on the TV, and watching it, it looked okay, but in the place, it's everything is echoing around. As you say, it's an eerie place. I know the first time we went in for a practice, I got a message to go down to the Shankly Lounge downstairs. Walked in, the lights are only half on, and there's a whole circle of people, all the stewards and the head steward and whatever, in a dark room. They've all got these masks on, and it was like one of those, those horror movies where somebody finds this weird cult in the middle of the jungle. It was exactly like that, and luckily that didn't last very long. We got out, but
they instead of trying to kill you, they were all saying, "Can you sit down, please?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So what we got through, and then of course we had the opposite problem when we got back to playing full houses. I had to get used to talking to 54,000 people again, which was even spookier. But there were plus sides. I mean, when we got the trophy, when we won the Premier League, there were only 300 people inside Anfield. And I was privileged to be one of them. I mean, I could find, a million people who would love to have been there. Yeah, quite happily. But I was, and it was just the presentation was just underneath my window, so I had a bird's eye view of it, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, I still can't get over that myself, to be honest. I was in work, and when we got the result, the City Chelsea game, when we knew we'd won, and I was in a pre-start at work, and someone went, "Chelsea have just got a penalty. You've won the league," and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I'm in work all day.
Well, when that was going on, I was actually on BT Sport. They had in the backdrop to the studio, they had 4 screens in one corner of Liverpool, recognisable Liverpool fans, a couple of musicians, a DJ and me. And I sat here for 5 hours at this desk on Skype. And, once in a while, I'd forget I was being watched live on BT Sport. Obviously, there's some wonderful pictures of when the goals were going in, of me leaping out of the seat. You'd be amazed how high I can leap. And because that made the cut, didn't it? Everybody saw that. But it was worth it in the end. It really was. It's just a magical night, because obviously it's been so long.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 26. You'd never seen it before.
That's the first time in my life to see it. I bought a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne and then didn't drink it for 8 months because I was like, I just don't know what to do with myself. You know what I mean? And obviously being in Australia, like Hamish is he likes football, but like it's soccer over here, George. It's just a bit of a different world. And
go and watch
I was like on cloud 9, and not people couldn't really understand it. And I was like, imagine your team has been nearly there, and like in my life, like I say, like I've seen a couple of close title races, and then to finally get it, it's just to be honest, I still feel good about it,
Well, yeah, and me. I mean, when I was a lad, I'm just trying to think, I'd be 19 when we won the FA Cup. And my dad, he followed Liverpool all his life. It's 99 years next month since my dad had a trial at Liverpool.
Jesus.
That's, so 1965, when we were watching the FA Cup final, it was his life's ambition, because we'd never won it before. It seemed crazy now, but it was an absolute obsession. And we won it, and the welcome home, the parade run centre of Liverpool was just unbelievable. But obviously, a couple of years ago, when we get to win the league, your generation were in the same boat. You waited all your life, basically, for Liverpool to win the league. And it's still great. I mean, I was pleased the previous year when we won the World Club Championship. People said, "Oh, that's a stupid competition." I said, "No, we're champions of the world."
Yeah, it was the badge for me. It was having the badge, and then obviously the Premier League wouldn't let us have it. But for me, I was like, just to have that badge on the front that says you're the best.
Well, I've got a picture of me holding that trophy, because I know there was a point when all 4 trophies were lined up in the museum. But I know they let me take my grandsons in at the start of the following season, before the place was open to anybody, and let them hold the trophies. And I said to the guys who were getting the trophies out of the safe for me, all I wanted, the only one I'd never held was the World Club Championship, and they got it out for me, and that was just magic. I think the picture's in my book somewhere. I think there's a picture of one of the trophies. But I'd held the Premier League trophy a few years previous. In fact, in the 90s, I was doing a charity do for Alan Kennedy up in Southport. And what they were doing, they had a big 5-a-side tournament going on. They had pitches all around the grounds of this school. And I was on the sort of mock-up stage in the middle of it all, playing music all day and doing the usual stuff, lost children, that sort of thing. Alan said, "I'm going to go for a wander," and he went right there into the field. Just then, this card comes in, and this guy gets this big cardboard box out and plunks it on the ground in front of me. He said, "Where's Alan?" I said, "He's the far end of the ground. He's just watching what's going on." He said, "Oh, well, when he comes back, tell him I brought the trophy for him, and I just presumed it was the trophy for this competition. Well, Alan came back. He said, "Oh, God, I've been waiting for that." Opens the box, and it's Manchester United's Premier League trophy. I'd been sitting, I hadn't been thinking about keeping an eye on it. I thought, "Oh my God, you've just left me alone with that." So I had my picture taken holding it, and so I got to hold that a long time before anybody else from Liverpool even had dark hair on the picture there. It shows you how long ago it was.
Yeah. It shows you when Man United's dominance was as well.
That was, yes, it was nice to see the back end of that, although this other shout are trying to get in the same boat now. I'm quite happy with the way things are going.
Yeah, we're not doing too bad. George, just before you mentioned about your book, The Voice of Anfield, my 50 years at Liverpool FC.
Yeah.
Like how is that? What's the response been like since you brought that out?
It's been amazing. I mean, I never thought I'd do it. Obviously, I never thought I'd get to 50 years, but when the idea was put to me by Peter Hooton, you know Peter Hooton?
Yeah, from Peter
The Farm.
The Farm.
Yeah, he phoned me up. Let me think. It must have been 2019, and he invited me to go for a cup of coffee the following day, and he brought his literary agent down with him, and they were saying, "Look, you're coming up to half a century at Anfield. You must have a few tales to tell." I said, "Well, yeah, I suppose you're right." So at the end result was I got writing the book, and I was one of the few people who did well out of lockdown, because the day Boris Johnson stood up and said, "You've all got to stay in for the next however many weeks," was the day I was just ready to commit all my notes to paper. So I sat here.
Phew.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Boris.
Yeah, not many people say that.
Do me nicely. And I wasn't allowed to go out the house, so I could sit here and do it. And then the publishers came on board during lockdown. I've never met my publishers. It was all done by Zoom. And the thing's put to bed. And May the 6th last year, the thing was published, and by coincidence, I was actually on Channel 4 lunchtime that day. I don't know if you've ever seen the clip.
I have seen it, and I have seen it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, George, I've seen everything. Right? Don't worry about it, I've seen it.
Oh dear, I don't like the sound of that. But I was sitting there, and then Kenny comes up on the screen, and I thought, "That's nice." If you watch the clip, I turned back to the interview and said, "Wow." Then I heard this sort of slightly deeper voice, and I turned around, there's Jürgen on the screen telling the world what a great book it is.
Your reaction to that is so heartwarming.
I really don't know how I kept it together. I just had to shake my head that it's just, as I said at the time, that was another surreal experience. Quite often I stop and think, what am I doing here? I mean, here I am. I'm talking to two guys the other side of the planet, basically, about my having been working for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, last Friday night, I did the Lord Mayor's Gala concert in Liverpool. I got on the stage at the Philharmonic Hall. Never thought I'd do that. In 10 million years. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, there's a new film out, BT Sport film called The Boot Room Boys.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I don't think it's made it out to Australia just yet. But I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
For the first. It's on. I know it's being repeated on BT Sport here this week, and that's the third film I've made. I'm in the. If you know what the IMDb is, the register. Yeah. I'm in there. How the hell did I get in there? And it just goes on and on. But God bless Jürgen. I know that after he popped up on the TV, the book sales went through the roof for a weekend. I know I actually got into the bestsellers for just one weekend, and since then it's been
Oh,
plodding
still,
away.
I'd be walking around that house. I'd be telling everyone, you know, I'm a bestseller.
Oh yes, I've got, you know, don't get me started. It's coming out in paperback on the 4th of August. So we've that year, and while I was out at the Phil on Friday night, I got invited to be a guest author at the literary festival, South Liverpool. You know, that's something else. Literary
George,
festival.
You're everywhere, aren't you? You're everywhere.
You know, it's just insane. The whole thing is insane, but you know, so worthwhile.
And this isn't because you're really old; it's because you're legendary, like I said.
Well, yeah, keep going. If you look at that red poster on the wall behind me, it's a mock-up of a football pitch, and all over are names of the footballers who played for Liverpool over the years. You know, the more appearances that they've made, the bigger the names are. Then round the perimeter, wrong way, that's better. I'm doing this back to front. Round the perimeter of the thing, there's every manager who's managed the team since the Shankly era. And then one row out, you can see the word Sephton.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's it. I said to my wife when this came,
that's going on the wall. Now. That's going on the wall.
That's as good as it gets. That. I mean, you know, life does not get any better. Well, I thought it did until Jurgen Klopp came on the telly and started saying nice things.
Yeah, it's just, to be honest, like Hamish. So Hamish background with radio. So like, Hamish, you were saying to me earlier about how George got a start in a job like that.
Yeah, I was just curious to how you began your journey.
Well, yeah, it's a famous story nowadays. I keep getting asked, but basically I was a Liverpool fan. I did my time on the Cop. I started going just after Bill Shankly took over. 10 years later, I got married, and my wife used to come to midweek games with me. One night, April 71, it must have been, we were standing in the old paddock. You don't remember the paddock, do you?
No, it was rebuilt.
It was a standing area at the front of what is now the main stand. It was better view and less crowded than the Cop, and I didn't want to take her on the Cop and get crushed to bits. And the guy on the PA then, excuse me, he was, I only discovered later, he was a stand-in for the regular guy, but he was very prone to making silly mistakes. He could play records at the wrong speed in those days, which he did more than once. And he struggled to pronounce some of the foreign names. I think he was banned from reading the teams when we were in Europe. And he did a few silly things over the years. And then that night he did something silly, and I made some sarcastic remark to my wife. And she looked at me deadpan and said, "It's all very well for you standing down here. I bet you couldn't do any better." That was like a red rag to a bull. So I went home and wrote a very long letter to Peter Robinson, who was in charge then. And basically, although it was an A4 sided paper on a typewriter, you remember typewriters? Yeah. And it boiled down to, you know, I can do better than that guy. Why don't you give me a chance?
Yeah. And
apparently they just decided to sling this guy out. My letter landed on Peter's desk. And he thought, this guy sounds quite sensible. And he got me in for a chat. Decided that I was quite rational. I'd probably keep my head in a crisis, which is quite a skill in what I do. And decided to give me a trial. So August the 14th, 71, I started my trial. In theory, the trial is still going on. I keep telling me, nobody's actually come to me and said, "Okay, son, you
can have it."
Job. And that was it. I keep saying to people, don't try this at home, folks. I know a few people over the years have written into the club and said, get rid of that old fool.
Really? I can't imagine that, to be honest. Like, so so for Hamish, a bit of backstory. So George George has been there, and I'm 26, but for the best moments of my life as a footballer, probably as a man, George has been there announcing the goal, right? And it's, you must have one of the most recognizable voices.
Oh, yes.
Ever, because that thing, and we used to do it as kids. You know, we'd be playing football on the street, and you did one in, you did goal for Liverpool, number 8, Steven Gerrard. You know what I mean? We used to just go crazy for it, and for like, so for me, my older brother who's 31 now, my old man and my granddad have all been on that cop, and had you doing that. So this is like I said, is a real treat to me.
Well, it's priceless sometimes. So I know it's different nowadays since LFC TV's come along, and I've been on BBC a few times over the years for various reasons. But even now, there's a lot of people don't recognise my face, and at least 2 or 3 times every season, I get stopped going into Anfield. Sorry, pal, you can't go in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'd be amazed. But excuse me, more than once, I've just stopped still, taken a deep breath, looked at the guy in the face, and said, "There'll be 2 minutes of added time. 2 minutes." At that point, they go, "Oh, sorry, mate." I mean, it was murder. The first day of my 50th season, I marched up to Anfield. I was full of the joys of spring. I was so proud of myself. I'm relieved. I got through. I hadn't had COVID. I got into season 50. The book was now valid because it's called My 50 Years in Anfield. Marched up to the porter cabin where they were doling out the wristbands, the accreditation. The girl looks at me. "Can I help you, love?" I say, "I need my wristband." "Oh, you work here, do you?" So she looked, she said, "Hang on, I'll look on the list." I said, "List?" So she's flicking through this list, said, "Sorry, you're not on here, you can't get in." And I looked at her, I said, "What do you mean I'm not?" I said, "Hang on, are you spelling my name right?" And she said, "How do you spell your name?" So I told her, and she looked again. "Oh, here you are, found you. Thank you." So
found you.
She gives me my wristband, and she said, "You have to have your bag searched at gate 4. Okay, fine. Go in gate 4. There's a woman, middle-aged woman I've never seen before, behind the desk. "Can I help you, love?" "Yes, I need my bag searched." "Oh, you work here, do you?" "Yeah."
You're kidding me.
And no. And then I had to go through the same rigmarole with 2 stewards who were new. And then the last one, I just said, "Look, I'm sorry. You see that room up there? I've got to be there in 5 minutes. If I hang around anymore, I'm going to be late, be in trouble." And I said, "Look, I'm going. If you want to, rugby tackle me, call the police, call Jurgen, do what the hell you like, but I am going up there." And got in. But the following match, it was obvious they'd had a sort of little staff briefing. And along the lines of, "You see that silly old man who says he's the match day DJ? Yes, he isn't escaped from somewhere secure. He actually is the match day DJ. Just let him in, will you?"
They think you've just wandered in from the streets in your carpet slippers. Yeah, that's nice of them.
But the problem is, I know I don't look like I sound. If you've only ever heard me and never seen me, the two don't match up. I said there's an awful lot of disappointed women all over Liverpool. I turn up, they're expecting Tom Cruise, and they get Mr. Blobby. It's very sad, but I'm used to it now. Even last year when I got the first promo copy of the book, I started taking it with me because I had so much hassle with all these new stewards. And then they started using one of the lounges in the Kenny Dalglish stand as a vaccination centre for COVID. So then we had stewards and we had all these NHS volunteers going through the same thing. "You can't go in there," or "Can I see your card? Have you come for your booster?" And then the favourite one, they'd point me at the lift up to the top floor, and they said, "You know where you're going?" And by the time I got the copy of this, I'd sort of hold it. Yes, my 50 years at Liverpool Football Club. I know where I'm going. Thank you.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope know where I'm going.
Oh dear God, it's all part of the fun. It's just you just can't actually just turn up at Anfield now and do what you've got to do and go home again. And obviously, the bottom line is, as I say, I'm still a Liverpool fan, so I have to sweat through the games with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Every week.
How do you find people impersonating your voice, George? Like I've done it 3 times already, and I'm not ashamed of it, because this is
I think it's quite.
This is an occurrence that goes on in my home every day.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of people on the radio, and there's an Irish podcast that was floating around where there was a guy doing a very good impersonation of me, and they were taking a poll. Do you think Seamus here should replace George? And luckily, the poll said no.
Oh, that's good.
But it'll happen one of these days. People, a lot of people have come up to me and said, "Oh, don't ever retire." I said, "Well, several things are going to happen. In another 50 years, I'll be 126. I don't think that's going to happen. So don't start saying do another 50. I'm getting old. I could put this laptop down now, have a heart attack, drop dead.
I hope you don't, even if we get great views on that, George, but I don't think I want them for that reason.
That's true. Yeah, it'd be good publicity for the
I'll
podcast.
be on the cop. People will be like, "Are you the fellow who gave George a heart attack?" And I'll be like, "No, that weren't me."
It's more than likely going to be Mo Salah gives me a heart attack.
Yeah. I don't think, as we said, Liverpool's not good for anybody's blood pressure at the minute, George.
No. Well, I mean, again, it's I might win the Euro Millions lottery tomorrow night, and in which case I'd think about, do I need all this stress anymore? Or the same. I'm going to get old. I might lose my marbles completely in a year or two. I don't know. I'm still. My wife reckons I'm going around the bend now, which is, probably not far from the truth. But
she was saying that in 1971. No, by the sounds of it, so I wouldn't worry too much.
No, I'll say just keep my fingers crossed.
Hamish, do you think you could impersonate George's voice?
No, I don't think I could.
Try not to kill him. Try not to kill him, but see if you can do it.
Look, I feel like I can't quite. Occasionally, when I hang out with Jack for too long, what happens is I can pick up his inflections with his accent. But George, your voice sounds nice, and I don't want to have a crack at it, to be honest. I don't think I could do it, and I think I'm going to embarrass myself miserably if I do have a go.
I used to do a good Aussie accent years ago in the when Peter May was the captain of England cricket team. I don't know. I heard somebody on the radio, and he's going down to watch Peter May play the cricket. And
it's a fascinating accent.
I remember the name now, so that's gone out the window. Yeah,
it's a fascinating accent.
People say, I've heard people say, when my wife and I'll be out for a coffee somewhere, when we're away on holiday or whatever. I've had people say I sound like John Lennon, and I said I really don't think I do. I can understand it, but if I start trying to be John Lennon, I'm mutating to Ringo Starr.
Yes,
the tank engine.
So, Hamish, do you George Harrison impression if you're not going to do George Sephton then?
Oh no, man.
George Harrison. I can't do it, Jack. It's not.
I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. He has a very, very funny voice like that. George, I've got a good impersonation story of your voice. So my mum was round at somebody's house, right?
Yeah.
And she just kept hearing, "In goal for Liverpool, number 25, Pepe Reina." And she's a big Red by mum as well. Shout out Karen, she'll be watching this. And she was like, "Is the game on? Is the game on?" And a friend was like, "No, it's the Parry." So they had a Parry that used to
it.
mimic your voice.
Oh,
It'd be like, woohoo, woohoo, number 25.
I have actually heard.
Woohoo.
I have actually heard everything now.
Yeah. How
One of the
good is
stories I was
that?
telling on you just reminded me of something on Friday night at the Philharmonic Hall. It was quite weird because obviously the front row has got the Lord Mayor and a few other local town mayors there, and it hit me while I was waiting to go on, but down in the stalls of the Philharmonic Hall 65 years ago, I was sitting there at school speech day. You know, and I can remember the block. I was over to the far left with my year. At the far side of the stalls, the older boys, the two in particular stick in my mind. One was George Harrison.
Oh, wow.
And the other was Paul McCartney. And, you know, if you'd said to me then where we'd all end up years later, if you wouldn't give tuppence. I remember George and Paul used to sneak off to one of the science lecture rooms at dinner time at school to practice their chords on their guitars. I remember seeing them do that. I so wish I could kept well in with those guys, because I know you used to see them wandering around.
You could have been Ringo.
I don't know about Ringo. I could have. I mean, a lot of his, you know, the road managers and people were guys they knew from school when they started hitting the big time. They made sure they had people around them they could trust, but it gave me an insight into the way things work out, which is why nowadays I've got a reputation for playing a lot of local bands.
Oh, 100%.
100%. Because I know, you know, how it happened, the Beatles didn't just appear from nowhere. You know, they'd started out in some of these back room and, you know, playing at school with mates and all the rest of it. And there's an awful lot of talent around this city even now.
George, you're that legendary, right? That I didn't even know you knew them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's just
in the book. It's in the book.
It's news to me. I'm waiting. I actually when you posted about I've got George on Facebook, everybody, and you're gonna get friend requests now. Sorry, George. And when he posted about his book, I was like, when are you doing the audio book? Because everybody wants the audio book.
Oh yeah.
When I was 5 years old, I'd listen to that. So are you doing the audiobook for it, or is it?
Oh, yes, it's on audio. It's on Amazon. I know a few people have told me that. But the funny, excuse me, when I just move sideways here. There's the CD.
Oh, aye.
Wow.
There's not many of them gone about because it's very expensive and very thick. You notice I haven't even taken the shrink wrapping off that. Yeah, because I know what to sound like.
Gonna sell it on eBay. Yeah. That's all
right. When the book was coming out, people said, "Are you going to do an audio book?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, who's going to do your voice?" And I looked at them, and I've after I've had 3 or 4 times, I said, "Oh, Joe Pasquale is booked." And they look at me and say, "What?" Then they realized I was winding them up. I said, "I'm doing a flaming audio book." That was an experience. 3 days locked in a recording studio in North Wales for whatever reason. It was very rewarding in the end. But as I said, when that thing came out, here I am in my mid-70s and my first CD's out. It's you know, it's.
Well, you did end up doing the same thing as the Beatles, if you think about it. Well, they spent 3 days making a record before as well.
True, yeah. Well, I think they probably made more out of it than I did.
Not yet. Wait and see what happens over the next year. Hamish, is your mind a little bit blown about that Beatles thing now?
Yeah, it is. And I was just wondering, like, George, what was it like when, like, what was the spotlight like on Liverpool at the time when the Beatles came out?
Well, everything happened at once. The Beatles came out. Liverpool, the football ground, got its first PA system. Merseybeat kicked off, and then course, in the space of a couple of years, England won the World Cup.
Mm.
So everything was happening. I mean, in Liverpool in the 63, 64, that sort of period, you know, the place was swarming with talent scouts. Everybody had a white van and a band. You know, my mate and I used to ferry a band round, and they, you know, they were one of the few that didn't quite make it, but they. I'm just trying to think what the other one was. There was a guy I knew who was still seen wandering around. He started singing in clubs again, and he made an advert for milk. They used every Sunday night, you know, after the mainstream TV was on, there'd be this ad. This is Ricky Gleason down at the Cavern after a gig. Ricky Gleason drinks milk, and about the same time, I was doing an advert for polo mints. Would you believe? I got collared in the street by this crew. And I'd see Ricky in the street and he'd go and I'd go and just walk off. But, you know, there's a lot of bands made it big. A lot of bands just disappeared into oblivion. Some made it big in America. I mean, my friend Terry Sylvester, who used to be in a band called the Escorts, he left and went and joined the Hollies when Graham Nash went to America. I've seen him recently. He's living in the southern states of America now. He's still playing and singing, and it was such a magic place to be. That all over the place, you know, church halls and, you know, coffee bars and all sorts of strange places. There were just music everywhere. I know for a couple of years I was the treasurer of the youth club I belonged to, and one Christmas we decided to have a dance, you know, and we got a band called the Undertakers, who were in the top sort of half dozen bands in Liverpool. There was a pecking order: the Beatles, then Jerry and the Pacemakers, and below that the Searchers, then the Undertakers, and then after that it was all hands to the pump. You know,
Scylla.
Oh yeah, well, when she didn't do much locally. She sang at the Cavern and then got, you know, sent out to do big things. But when we got to this dance, somebody said, "How much is in the kitty?" So I checked. I said, "We've got £8 in the kitty." So we booked the Undertakers. And I remember I have a committee meeting not long after, and somebody said to me, "To pity we only had the £8, because we had 10 quid, we would have got the Beatles."
Oh, wow.
Looking back now, if you'd known what was coming off, you would have gone and robbed your granny's purse for £2. You know, they were brilliant, but it was, you had to appreciate. It's like going to Anfield. You know yourself, Jack, that it looks good on the telly, it sounds good, and all the rest, until you actually stood there. At a match, you have no idea what the atmosphere is like. And it was the same with being in Liverpool then. You know, the buzz about the place. That you know, so many kids, you know, persuading their mums and dads to buy them a guitar. Some were rubbish, and some were fantastic. You know, some are still going now, although it's sadly, obviously, they're getting to an age now. They're all, you know, retiring, you know, and living in care homes and goodness knows what. And there's a lot of them still play. There's a couple of clubs not far from where I live. There's a place called the Oldie at the Old Drone.
Yeah, shout out to the Oldie. I used to drink in there when I was 15.
Oh, there you go.
George. They
have quite a regular thing called the Mersey Cats, which is a lot of the old musicians were down. By God, they can still play and sing. But when you're watching them staggering in on the Zimmer frames, and, you know, you wonder what was going on. But the talent's still there.
They get up and they do it. I think. See, for me, like, So Hamish absolutely loves the Beatles, George, right? And for me, being from Liverpool, and I love the Beatles, they're my favourite band. When I talk to people about the Beatles, especially over here, I'm like, yeah, but they're ours. But they're not. They're they're everybody's the Beatles. And I think that kind of pride, it was when you mentioned about like that Anfield, being there, the experience of it. And earlier you mentioned about Jerry and the Pacemakers, like, You'll Never Walk Alone. When I was a kid, I knew it was our song, right? And I knew, the big moments, and I knew a bit about the history of it and all that, but I never fully understood what that song was really about until I got older.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's
it's a song. You played that song, right? And I felt like you were playing it for me. We played against West Ham at the start of the year we finished on 97 points, 18-19 was it that season?
Yeah, that's right.
And I was there, and that was my last game that I've been to before I moved to Australia. And it was playing, and I was there with my brother and two lads who I've went the game with like my whole life. And I'm there, and you were playing You'll Never Walk Alone. And I was in floods of tears because I knew that thing I do every week that's not going to be there anymore.
No.
And I think the power of music, and the power, especially in Liverpool, the music's what, I don't know, it's what makes the city and the club and everything so amazing. It's like, I don't think people understand that because they haven't experienced it,
Again, going back to Friday night, somebody else has said that, I was talking about George and Paul being in the audience at the film. And I said 5 years later, they made Liverpool the centre of the musical universe, basically. But then I pointed to a couple of the other guys who'd been on the bill, the guy called Ian Prowse.
Yeah, Ian Prowse, yeah, Amsterdam.
And before him, a friend of mine called Brian Nash, who
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
I said, these guys are keeping it going because Liverpool still is the centre of the musical universe, as far as I'm concerned. And long may it continue. I do my little bit, and there's so much. In fact, there's too much talent knocking about the place. If I do win the Euro Millions jackpot one of these days, I'm going to start opening little music venues all over the place because there just aren't enough to make it pay to make these guys have a decent living out of it. Not the ones who go on to be big stars, but the guys who have the talent and whatever. I mean, a guy, I bumped into a guy on Friday night, Martin Fletcher. I met this guy in a coffee bar by accident about 12 months ago. And he said to me, I'll be making the CD, I'll have to get it over to you. And I said, well, please do. He was on the bill on Friday night. And when I was driving home, I was playing this CD he'd given me on the car stereo, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what? Where are you hiding?
Yeah.
And Liverpool Institute High School is now LIPA.
LIPA, yeah.
Paul McCartney's fame school. Until recently, I used to get invited to the graduation there, but they've basically run out of room at the Philharmonic Hall now because there's so many of the honorary degrees have been given out. But the atmosphere in that place, and the people who are coming out of there, not just the musicians, some of them have made it big. A lot of them are having a steady living, in on the musical theatre and that sort of thing. An awful lot of them are technicians. Because even I heard Paul McCartney say that he was trying to book some of the sound engineers for his new tour, and his management came back and said, "You can't. They're all going off with Coldplay." And the standard at the place is wonderful, and the atmosphere. It's the old what I said to you 5 minutes ago. You've got to be there to appreciate all these talented people. A lot of Scandinavians. But one reason or the other, as you know, there's an awful lot of Scandinavian Liverpool fans. And there's an awful lot of Scandinavian musicians who've been to LIPA and just stayed
Yeah.
They loved the place.
Just loved the city, and stayed.
Settled down here.
Yeah.
And that's so nice to see.
Are you aware of the impact you've had on the Liverpool music scene? Do you do you get it? Because
I probably don't. I don't know. I think I'm just making a little scratch in the corner. Once in a while, something will happen. I mean, there's one band who have now disbanded, sadly. The Aesthetics, because I play one of their tracks at Anfield, and there was a record producer in the main stand as somebody's guest, and his ears pricked up, and he found out who they were. And the next thing he knew, they had a recording contract. That's great when you hear things like that. But a lot of them, I know they love it, and some of them, it's an ego thing. Just if you were making music and you suddenly heard yourself when you were in the crowd at the game, you'd be chuffed to bits, wouldn't you?
I've had a sort of Hamish. I wrote this song in would have been 2016, right? And we've had our season ticket in our family for like 20 odd years. But this year, my old man was working in the States. He was like, "No, you can't pay for it yourself. You're not getting it, right?" So we never went that year. Awful year it was. Anyway, Liverpool were playing United, and I think we got beat 1-0.
Yeah.
And I made me dad buy tickets because I'd spoken to you, and you said, "I like this song. I'll play it before the game." I go, "Great, right." So for everyone, George has got his playlist. It's before the game, half time, a little bit after the game. That's the playlist, right? So Hamish, George says to me, "All right, I'm gonna play it. All good." So I say to me, "Dad, get tickets." So we bought. You know how much Man United tickets are if you're buying them off the tout. Jesus Christ, right? And we were in the pub, and it's about 20 minutes before the game. And my old man's like, "Should we go?" And I went, "It won't be on yet. We'll have one more pint." And he goes, "All right." So we have one more pint, and then my phone just starts. It's on Sky Sports now. Man United are warming up, and all you can hear blasting over the tannoy is your song. And I was like, "Dad, hurry up!" Trying to catch the end of it. But like, luckily and then I had to lie to everyone and say, "Oh yeah, I heard it in there." And then there was another time, my old business teacher, and he'll like this because he loves you as well. Shout out Mr. Halliday. So his season ticket used to be right in front of mine, and 105 on the cop, right?
Yeah.
And he's standing there, and I'd left school like 2 years before, and my song starts playing, and he says to me, "So what have you been up to, Jack?" And I went, "Nothing, absolutely nothing." And the idea that your music is there, and so many people, I know you're saying about the ego thing, and I think it's not even that. It's you, like the amount of bands I used to get in early for to listen to, like the Cheap Thrills. And I know you know the Cheap Thrills quite well.
Oh yeah,
they're an oldie band as well. Shout out Walton Vale's massive, but they were my mates in school. And then I'd hear it, I'd be, "Oh, that's my mate's band," and it's always that. And I think if we really look at what came out of the city, even before you were talking about The Farm and like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, even like to Jamie Webster now, it's you've played all of that.
Oh yeah.
So when people hear that again, I've heard this at the match before.
Yeah.
So I think like, I wish you understood how massive it is for us when you do that. You know what I mean?
I'm pleased to hear that. I mean,
like, really?
When you have one of these conversations, people always start going back to Atomic Kitten.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was the first one to give them an airing.
Really?
Because I was talking to Mel C's production company, and she had a new CD coming out, and I had a book out in 1997. Oh, well, that's just look. Oh, that one. It wasn't much cop, but it was quite fun. But on the back cover, there's a picture of Mel C and a quote saying, "It was the coolest moment of my life when George played our song at Anfield."
Oh,
So
wow.
that was just when the Spice Girls started out. But
wow.
she had a solo CD coming out, and I was on the phone to her manager trying to blag a free copy. I'm very good at blagging free CD. And the one said, "Yeah, sure, I'll send you one, but you do me a favor. I've got this new girl band coming out called Atomic Kitten. I'll send you their stuff." I said, "Yeah, sure." And I played it, and then not long after they did a PA at Anfield at half time, December 1998, and I got to meet them with the manager and all the rest of it, and then they were good, but there's one of the list. Oh dear God, I've forgotten this name. Liz out of Atomic Kitten anyway. She's made a steady living. I've seen her around and about, and she was a blue nose, and I remember having a good old banter session with her about when she was not happy being played at Anfield.
Being at Anfield,
but mates would just say, "Shut up, we're going to do well after this." They did, and I think things like that make it all worthwhile. They really do. Just watching these people coming up through the ranks and many years later making it big. Oh, the Coddle, another one.
The Coddle, yeah.
And the Zootons.
Yeah.
I was probably with the guy who ran their little record company in Rose Lane in Liverpool, and I got all their stuff. And to this day, I know they still appreciate it, just a little push, but it's priceless watching these people. And as I say, the big thing about what I've done over these years, the best thing is the people I get to meet and the people I've come across. Something else I've said to a few people over the last couple of years: what other job would you be just leaving work and bump into James Bond?
Yeah.
He's a big fan.
He's a massive Red, isn't he, Daniel Craig?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just sort of so casual on the way out. All right, and then wander off. But it's one. I wonder what would have happened to my life if I hadn't, been challenged by my wife all those years ago. I don't know. I'd probably be a bank clerk somewhere or something. Nothing exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just your journey, George, and it's like, so one thing Hamish and I discuss is like when people really achieve great things, it's always perseverance and just willpower to get into it. Because if you would, you know what I mean, you could have just kept your opinions to yourself that day.
Hey George, can I just ask, what did your wife say after you'd got the job?
Not a lot. I think she was quite stunned at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky. My wife is a football fan, although nowadays she's a fireside football fan. I know she's going to the Derby match the week after next. That'll be.
Yeah.
So we're just panicking in case that's the first game we lose out of the 7 remaining, because she'll be barred out of Anfield for the rest of her life. That's for sure. But I know I feel sorry for her in some ways, because obviously our lives revolve around Liverpool's fixture list.
Yeah, and the season.
So when we're making plans to go away or do this, that, the other, the first thing I have to do is look at the fixture list in my diary. And, if last night she was talking to a friend of hers who was about to go to Australia, strangely, and she was arranging to have a day out somewhere before she goes. And she put the phone down and said, "What are you doing Tuesday week?" So I blank day. Okay, I'll meet Joyce then. And that was it. She has to work out what I'm doing and where I'm going and whatever. But she really loves her football. I know when we first met before we got married, I know I took her to a couple of games at Anfield, and she was really unaware of the comings and goings, the nuances of football and all the rest of it. But by the time our two lads were 6, 7, 8, 9, she was really into it. I mean, I was running this junior football team during the summer holidays from school, and when I couldn't get to the tournament because I couldn't get out of work, she'd run the team, and I'd leave it to it. I know she really knows what she's talking about, so it makes life a lot easier, because I know fellas whose wives, go in another room and there's football on or whatever. She and I watch together and we get just as wound up. In fact, she gets more wound up than me now. Really does.
Oh, that's fantastic. And like now, when you look back over your life, like you've been with the club now for 50 years, what to you is the best memory?
Oh, that's good. I mean, football wise, it's got to be the Barcelona game a couple of years ago. I mean, you couldn't have written a script for that.
No.
I mean, we turned up 3-0 down to the best team in the world, and people came just thinking, well, I bought a ticket now, I may as well go and see it. At least they'll be able to tell my grandchildren I saw the great Barcelona team or whatever.
Watch Messi.
And then, of course, we had 2-star players crocked. And then score an early goal and think, oh, that's nice. And then just after half time, Genie scores 2 goals and we're level. Then all of a sudden, the whole atmosphere in the place just changed. So many notches. Then, that corner. You're probably aware the ball boy who threw the ball to Trent is now working wonders for the under-18s.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yes, he's scoring more goals than Mohamed Salah this season. He's
so
really
basically, Hamish, we played away at the new camp, right? Barcelona, this unbelievable team. We get back and it's Trent Alexander-Arnold goes to take a corner and then like dummies and doesn't take the corner. And then as their players are unsettled, he turns and passes the ball in and Origi smashes it in the top corner.
Wow.
And everyone's looking around, Barcelona looking around like, can they do that? Can they do that? And like, is it true the whole club had been talking about that Barcelona reacts?
It might well be. I've not heard that.
I've heard. So like even the ball boys and everything knew get the ball to the player because Barcelona just complain.
Well, that was it. It's all part of one movement.
Yeah.
The lad's name is Oakley Canonier. Right. But I can see it now. I close my eyes. He was sitting there looking nonplussed. And in one movement, the ball goes to Trent. Trent puts it down and walks away.
Yeah.
And then Trent realized that, as you say, everybody was looking the wrong way except Divock Origi. So he turned back, one move, dink, Divock's head into the back of the net. And I must admit, I was sitting there waiting for the referee to say, take it again.
I think everybody in the world was waiting for the referee to say, take it again.
We've scored. Yeah. And then, of course, we got, 20 minutes left?
Yeah.
And that was so stressful because all they had to do was get a stupid goal and they would have won in the away goals rule. Yeah. But then, as you know, at the end, I bang on, you never walk alone.
Yeah.
Don't do that very often at the end of a game. I did then. And the whole squad was lined up, singing it. I mean, there were people in.
I've literally got goosebumps, George, as you talk about this. I've got goosebumps.
And then when they'd finished, they all trooped off, and I'm looking on the cop. Nobody's going home. I think, now what do I do? And I looked on I've got a little pile of CDs behind the players, behind the desk. And nowadays I operate off memory sticks. Everything. I build a playlist on the memory stick for the time between games, and I've used everything up I've taken with me. So I picked up the first CD is John Lennon, banging on the first track, Imagine. And I was thinking people
Jesus.
would be drifting away, and nobody did. They all started singing along. And I did hear a tale the following day from a guy who was watching it in the Sydney casino.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he said the place was full of all these rugged Australian sheep farmers or whatever. 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're all in floods of tears.
Yeah.
And you know, people telling me stories like that makes me feel really, you know, powerful. The influence you can have on just one piece of music, and then.
Oh, George, it's like honestly. So again, I moved just as we started to become a brilliant team, right?
Yeah.
I've got friends who say stay in Australia.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't this good when you lived here. But the Barcelona one, I remember my brother lived at home then. I called up my brother and he was like, "Oh yeah, we're just in the booze an hour before the game," and it was like early morning for me out in Australia.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, just in the booze before the game. Yeah, we're booking our flights for Madrid. And I was like, 3-0 down. And he's like, "Nah, we're going through. We'll beat these. We can do these." And everyone kind of felt like, we can beat these.
Yeah.
And the obscenity of that in itself, we'll just beat the greatest football teams ever. And it's just, as you say, those moments, picking that song at that right time. And, you know, the stories of you playing You'll Never Walk Alone after we beat Chelsea in 2005.
Oh, yes.
And I was 9 watching that. You know what I mean? And I think my dad and my brother were there, and I was like 9 watching the game. And I remember opening in Aintree, opening the window in the living room, and I could hear You'll Never Walk Alone from Anfield. It's just
that was
insane.
I mean, the end of that game in 2005 was crazy because, you know, we were 1-0 up and they were throwing everything at Liverpool. Another of my pet sayings the last few years, people said they threw everything but the kitchen sink at our goal. And I say, I'm quite convinced there was a kitchen sink flying through the air at one stage, really. And then we're looking at the watch, to come on, blow the whistle. Then the fourth official puts up his board with the number 6 on it. And I was looking, does that say 6? And I go in crackers. And they look on the TV screen, it's 6.
Yeah.
And I announced the 6 minutes. And then you can see Rafa looking around at the bench and, what did he say? and the next bench, of course, the blessed Jose Mourinho is, he's on the edge of the pitch, but you can look at 6 minutes to scrape a goal here.
Everyone's blaming you as if it was your idea.
Oh, yeah, they were.
6 minutes.
I mean,
George, just say 4 minutes, 2 minutes.
I had to come back from shopping more than once in the few weeks after that because there were people, you know, threatening me in the street. Why the hell did you give 6 minutes? I don't give it. I'll just read it. And they, you know, it was.
As if you're up there in your box and you go, feels like 2 minutes to me.
Yeah.
The ref gives you carte blanche on it. Just
as if I'll tell you what, it's a good job they don't, because there'll be a few games that the time would have changed. Like, oh dear God, what a night! And
so
then,
George, are you thinking? Are you going to keep going? Are you going to just keep going? Because I hope you just keep going.
My intention right now, I mean, my next aim in life is to see the new stand finished, you know, the Anfield Road end.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple of years before we start using that, I believe. Although I'm not sure, I think they're officially are aiming for 23, 24. But, you know, to get to the end of that season, you know, I'll be 78 then, which is starting to push it a bit. And, you know, as I say, what I don't want to do is end up being wheeled into my box and sitting there and go, I'm 92, you know. I really don't do it. And again, I say once in a while I get dogs abuse online. You'd be surprised. But I don't respond to them most of the time. Sometimes I do. They're saying things that are just not true. Well, they're abusing me. I'll just retweet them, and
let everyone else deal with them. Yeah.
At this moment in time, the reaction is almost always 90% in favour of me. Go away, leave George alone. But come the day that somebody abuses me and I get a cluster of posts on social media saying, yeah, he's right, George has had his time, I'll be off like a shot. But at the moment, I'm sure that most of the people who listen to me in the crowd are on my side because they like my playlist.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a row going on at the moment because the players started picking things to play during the warm-up while we were behind closed doors, and that stuck. There's one or two people who are trying to tell me what people want to hear before the game, and I know what people want to hear before the game. And it really upsets me. But the people telling me are the people who run the place. And I know there are people inside the club itself, not many, just one or two, who wish I'd just go away, and they can, change things. But I know Liverpool fans.
We haven't sworn on this, George, right? And it's been a respect thing. We haven't sworn, but I'm just going to say, fuck those people right now. Fuck those people.
Yeah, the trouble is, if I said that,
no, you can't say it. I can say it though, George. I can say it.
A lot of people have said that to me, so that's nice. But I'll say I'll just keep plowing on and see what cooks. Who knows? Well, a million and one things could happen.
I would not want to be the guy or the girl who takes over from you after that. How do you compete with that? How do you compete with that?
Well, there are one or two egos who think they could, and I know you go to a lot of grounds, and it's all, that's what I say. The music they're playing, basically, for an hour before kickoff, is the sort of stuff you'd expect to hear in a club at 3 o'clock in the morning, not at the football ground. Some of the stuff the players ask to be played while they're warming up is that sort of stuff, and it's just not football music at all. I know I've seen people on podcasts locally say, "What's up with George? He's playing some strange stuff lately," and I keep trying to explain to them it's not my choice. It really isn't. My choice comes. I've been playing for 2 hours before kickoff every game. People don't realise. I mean, going back to what you were saying before about playing local bands, there was one guy, it must be 15 years ago now, emailed me out of the blue, and he said he was a manager of this new band who released their first single. Would I play it at Anfield? And I said, well, send me the MP3. He did. I thought, oh, that's okay. And I played it the following game, which, as it happened, was home to United. And on the Monday morning, I got a snotty email off this guy. I thought you were going to play our track. I said, well, it did. He said, I sat there right through half time and I didn't hear it. I said, well, no, you wouldn't.
Half time.
I played it at 20-3. Did not realise I'm sweating cobs for 2 hours before kickoff playing music. And I never heard from him again. I think
I sat all the way through half time, 15 minutes.
He made a supreme sacrifice and didn't go and get his cup of tea.
Jesus Christ! I didn't have a bovril, George. I didn't have a bovril for you.
Yeah, he was very lucky to get in at the slot at 20-3, which is basically as late as I can get it. Before you have to start playing, obviously, the usual stuff that You Never Walk Alone and team announcements.
I think he probably wanted it exactly where You'll Never Walk Alone is. That's what he wanted.
Oh, he probably
That's
did.
What he wanted.
That's not going to happen.
No.
I went to Jerry Marsden's memorial service
a
couple of weeks ago, which was Saturday. I remember saying after that, as long as I'm in charge, You Never Walk Alone will always be the last thing before kickoff. And I don't think, I can't see the circumstances surely in the next 150 years, why somebody will have to change that.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the ritual. It's like a religious service now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You're watching, you put walk alone on you. Just watching the ground, everybody standing up. And
you know what it is, George? And I that moment where you fade it.
Yeah.
And the crowd takes over.
Yeah.
That moment for me is just like, that's,
I know.
You know, it's just, yeah. I've
had people moaning about that as well. There was one particular guy who was texting me every week saying, "Don't fade it, let it go. We all want it all the way through." And I said, "Well, no. A few years ago, I know there were people of both persuasions. In the end, I took a straw poll, and I think it was 95% of people want me to fade it.
Yeah.
And then one day I didn't fade it, and Peter Moore was onto me like, "What's going on?" So I said, "Right, thanks, Peter. You've made my day, because I can now say it's club official policy, fade it." Yeah. It goes wrong sometimes when
Burnley 4 o'clock Sunday kickoff.
Oh well, yeah.
Nobody wants to sing on that time. The amount of hungover times I've been in there, and you think, oh,
yeah, I'll say. Once or twice the teams have come out late. I know years ago when they first started giving me a running order, I got monumental earache because the teams came out and I didn't have time to play, the lineup music where the players are shaking hands and whatever, and You'll Never Walk Alone. So I ditched the lineup because I thought, if I ditch You Never Walk Alone and play the lineup music, there'll be riots. I got all sorts of earache, off the club, but we can't be doing that. Apparently they got a big fat fine, so I'm very sorry.
Oh, like the official Premier League music.
That's right. Yeah. Luckily, the girl who was the Northwest area organizer for the Premier League was somebody I knew. She went to school with my daughter-in-law down in Crawley, of all places. And I messaged her, direct, I could talk to the woman. I said, "What's going on here?" Because I said, it wasn't my fault. The referee brought the teams out late. They came out, 2.5 minutes before kickoff. And that doesn't give me time to play You'll Never Walk Alone and the lineup music. It's supposed to be 4 minutes. And even if they come out half a minute late, the whole thing is messed up.
It just messes up the playlist up and everything.
I know it happened a couple of times this season when we've had minutes applause for when Peter Oynson died and that sort of thing. It just if they come out 10 seconds late, the whole thing's fallen to bits. But nowadays, I've got a clock there, and I'm timing everything. I write notes down as to when they came out, and I've said, I do my bit, you do your bit.
Endo, do your laces when you get on the pitch. Like, get out there.
Yeah.
George, one of the other things, and I remember taking to my missus to a game. It was like her first game that she's ever went to a few years ago, and scorer of Liverpool's first goal.
Yeah.
That in itself, first goal, scorer of Liverpool's, because there's going to be more. Crowd, brace yourselves in. There's going to be more. Are you conscious about things you say, phrasing and stuff
Sometimes
like that?
That one is quite deliberate.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I know I've had my wife shouting at me about that. She'd hear me on the telly. She can't be saying that. I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I am."
Yeah.
If it,
it's like a wink and a nod every time I've heard that score of Liverpool's first goal, and then you go, "There we go."
Well, it's I try my best. It's trickier now because obviously my little room, there's not just me in there. There's me, a sound engineer now, and the guy who operates the scoreboard, which means the guy who's in contact with the VAR people. So when there's a goal goes in, I can't say goal scorer so and so until they hear the magic words check over.
Yeah.
And that can get quite tricky sometimes. But when there's a dubious goal at the far end. Luckily, I've got monitors in there now. We can work out who did it and why. Touch wood, I usually get them right, even though there's some dispute. I mean, when Peter Crouch scored his first goal for Liverpool, he'd been struggling for ages.
Yeah, long period.
Against Wigan, I announced, this was before VAR, and I put here, because I wasn't sure, but on the monitor, I could see everybody jumping up and down around Peter. And I announced first goal scored Peter Crouch. And then somebody came in from next door and said, no, that was an own goal. You got that wrong. So I don't think so. See, even if it was an own goal, when I said first goal scored Peter Crouch, there was a big cheer. The atmosphere went up about 5 notches.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy. And then about 6 weeks later, the FA dubious goals panel gave it to Peter Crouch.
So you got it right.
I got it right. The same thing happened about a fortnight later. Stevie G scored at the Cop end, and I actually heard the TV commentator say, "Oh, George had got that one wrong," and I hadn't. The goal went.
I remember that. I think I actually remember that. So, yeah.
So, no, and it's a running battle of wills all over the place now. You can't just say. Years and years ago, I used to turn up with a box full of vinyl, play some records, play a few requests, announce the team, and sit back and watch a game, and then go home again. Not anymore.
Yeah. It's
constant bombardment of social media. People at the club, don't do this, don't do that. We want you to do this. You can't do that time. I have to say, I crawl out of there on my hands and knees. So they'll find me in a corner just a blabbering idiot one of these days.
I hope not.
Well, maybe I think it's more likely I'll have a heart attack when we get a vital goal in the 96th minute or something. Or
I'll be thinking about you every single time Origi scores a late winner now. That'll be
But the other one, I see to my wife, she'll find me in the chair one Sunday morning, dead as a dodo, with the winning lottery tickets crumpled up in my hand.
George, can I ask a big favour of you?
Yeah, try my best.
Can you say Sydney's #1 music podcast, West Underground?
Okay. Sydney's #1 podcast, West Underground.
Do it again. I fucked that up. Sorry, George. I swore again as well.
Sydney's #1 podcast, West Underground.
You've just made my dreams come true there. I never made it as a footballer.
Worry about you now.
I never made it as a footballer, George. But at least I've got that. At least I've got that.
You really need to get out more.
Yeah, I know. It's the problem with Australia. Australia's got me going stir crazy, man.
Yeah.
But George, thank you very much for your time, my friends. It's a pleasure to listen to you tell stories. And Hamish, I'm really sorry. You've never seen me like that before, have you?
No, this is a first. This is the first time.
But yeah, George, honestly, thank you for your time.
Don't forget, it's on Amazon.
Yeah,
all over the media.
Buy it, everybody. Buy it.
Yes, please do.
Get them back
I'll
in
the paperback
bestsellers.
will be out later in the year, so I presume it'll get to Oz next year after. And when I do actually jack it in, there's a follow-up to that. It's already on the way, called Anfield Behind Closed Doors. So that's a few years to go yet.
That'll be on the
I'll have
horizon.
to have left by the time that comes out.
Is that all the big stories? All the gossip?
Yeah.
We'll get that on the next podcast. We'll get that on the next podcast. Hey, George, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Nice to talk to you guys. Cheers.
Up
Cheers,
the Reds.
Hamish. Right.